You know, the entire airport experience is just massively unpleasant. Unpredictable traffic, expensive parking, airport surcharges on your taxi or your Uber ride. But what if I told you there are US airports that have it figured out? Today we're going to talk about North America's best airport transit connections. I'm going to tell you how we analyze them, and then we're going to count them down right here on City Nerd. Remember to like or dislike if I trashed your city. Subscribe, hit the bell notification, and just show love in general. So today I want to look at airports, because this is North America and we have to fly everywhere because there's no high-speed rail. But specifically, which airports have the best rail connections to downtown. So really quick, I'm gonna walk through the criteria I use to rank these. As always, I'm not telling you this is the be-all and end-all correct answer. I'm just telling you, here are the things I thought were important, and here's how I measured them. And if you have a better way to do it, go for it. Better yet, get down in the comments and tell me how I did it wrong. So we're essentially gonna look at travel time, and I think of it as how much time does it take to get from the baggage claim to downtown of the city you flew into using transit. And when I say transit, I really mean rail. So this limits the cities we're gonna look at, and you can say I'm a rail snob, and that's probably accurate, but to me, trains are legible in a way that buses aren't. You know when you're at a train platform, you know what line you're on, you know where it goes. It's not gonna deviate and go somewhere you weren't expecting. A bus stop is a sign by the road, and it almost takes a leap of faith that you're getting on the right bus when it shows up and that it's gonna go where you wanna go. So I'm gonna use an example to walk through the criteria I used to measure this. And the example is an airport that doesn't show up in the top 10 that might surprise you if you are the type of person who engages in Twitter discussions about this kind of thing. I often hear how great the transit connection is from PDX, the Portland International Airport. And I think this is based on the fact that the platform is just super close and convenient to the baggage claim. But let's take a look at it using the criteria I'm gonna be using. So first is walk time, which I'm measuring from essentially the center of the baggage claim, meaning I really only want to count the walk time that is above and beyond what you would have had to walk anyway if you were catching a taxi. And by the way, for this, I'll grudgingly accept people mover connections like the air train in New York, New Jersey. So for Portland, obviously it's great. It's probably like a 1 or 2 minute walk. I rounded it up to 2 minutes for this. So for the transit travel time and frequency, I'm assuming you're hopping on a train at 8 a.m. And so that could be like a short hop early morning flight, or it could be like a coast to coast red eye. This is a peak travel hour where you'll probably actually have the most frequency. So obviously your mileage will vary, so to speak. If you want to use transit at noon, maybe lower frequency, or like midnight or the middle of the night. And then I'm measuring travel time to the center of the city, which is a bit of a subjective choice as to what constitutes the center of the city. But for each of these, I'll show you what I selected, and then you can argue with me whether I chose the right station down in the comments. And as far as the frequency, mathematically, I should just account for half of the headways. Headway is the amount of time in between trains, because on average, you'll show up on the platform sometime between not having to wait at all, like there's a train just showing up, or just having missed a train. But really, if they're long headways, there's kind of like a psychological friction of, boy, do I really want to take the train if, I might have to wait 15 minutes, or do I hop in a cab? And so I'm gonna charge the full headway for this analysis. So for Portland, which is not a very big city, it's a 39-minute train ride from the airport to Pioneer Courthouse Square. This is kind of shameful. The airport's actually within Portland proper. It's not even out in the exurbs, but there are 16 stops between the airport and Pioneer Courthouse Square. So it's 39 minutes, and this is the max red line, and at this hour, it runs every 15 minutes, so 4 times an hour. So I'm gonna charge the whole 15 minutes. So all told, I get 2 minutes walk plus 15 minutes of headway plus 39 minutes of transit travel time, and that's 56 minutes. So one caveat before we get into it, all the data I pulled from like a typical midweek day at 8 a.m. And so the frequencies we're looking at may be affected by COVID. Some of the transit agencies may have scaled back their service. I didn't do like a ton of research to look into what normal operating is. So just keep that in mind when we go through the list. All right, let's get into it. Number 10 is Newark Liberty in Newark, New Jersey. For the analysis, we're going from the New Jersey Transit Liberty Airport Station into New York Penn Station. The air train is going to eat up about 11 minutes. The travel time on New Jersey Transit is 26 minutes, and it runs about 5 times an hour, so 12-minute headways. So your total time is 49 minutes. I did look at fare for all of these different train options. Some of these cities actually put a surcharge on a train from the airport, but I didn't use it as a primary criteria because in pretty much every case, the transit fare is like at least an order of magnitude less than what you would pay for a cab. 9 is SFO, San Francisco International Airport. This one also has an air train that you need to take to get to the BART platform. So I've got 6 minutes for that air train ride. The BART trip on the yellow line from SFO to Powell Street downtown is 28 minutes. And I don't know if you guys are ever in Google Maps and use this schedule explorer. This is pretty awesome, actually. You know what's not awesome is one of our largest metro areas has a subway system that runs 4 times an hour from the airport. So I'm charging 15 minutes for that. So the total is 49 minutes, which is the same as Newark, but I used fare as a tiebreaker, and the BART fare is kind of high too. It's $9.65, but the train from Newark Liberty to Penn Station is $15.25, so SFO wins. The other factor I looked at that I just didn't really incorporate in the analysis was span of service. And so span is how long does the service operate during the day? Is it like 5 a.m. to midnight is kind of a typical for a larger city. It might be, 4 a.m. to 1 a.m., something like that. But it wasn't a huge differentiator between all these services. Anyway, let's move on to number 8, which is Cleveland Hopkins. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even know Cleveland had an urban rail system. I knew they were early adopters on bus rapid transit with the Health Line, but the rail service from the airport is actually really good. The platform's super close, so you got like a 2-minute walk. The travel time is 28 minutes on the Red Line from the airport to Tower City Public Square, and it runs 4 times an hour, which is kind of typical for a city the size of Cleveland. So all told, we get to a total travel time of 45 minutes. And the fare is reasonable too, it's like $2.50. Moving on to number 7, we are going to Salt Lake City. We're gonna look at the Trax Green Line from the airport station to the city center stop. By the way, if you have a rail station that's called City Center, you can be pretty sure I'm gonna use that as the city center. The platform isn't super close to the baggage claim area. It's about a 5-minute walk. Salt Lake City is not a large city. It's only a 20-minute ride to city center. And again, 4 times an hour, 15-minute headways. So that gets you to a total of 41 minutes travel time. 6, we're going back to the Bay Area. This is Oakland International. I find this kind of a bit ridiculous. Oakland does not have an air train. I mean, they do, but it's not called an air train. It's called the BART Beige Line, and it only has 2 stops, the airport and Coliseum Station, where you have to transfer to an actual BART line. But even with the transfer, this is lightning quick. The Oakland airport is really close into downtown Oakland. And by the way, I am using downtown Oakland for this, not San Francisco. So this is a 2-minute walk to the Beige Line, which is about an 11-minute ordeal in itself. But then once you get on the BART Orange Line to 12th Street in Oakland, that's only a 10-minute train ride. And again, this one runs every 15 minutes. So all told, we've got a 38-minute ride. And the fare on here, BART's expensive compared to other cities. It's $8.50. 5, we are now going to Chicago. O'Hare did not make this list, although the train service is pretty good, but it's just kind of far away from the city, so you can't get the travel time low enough to make the list. But this is Midway, and the L lines, they have great span of service, man. They shut down after 1 a.m. and then they start back up at like 3:30 in the morning. So just about any time you get in, there's gonna be a train you can take. We're taking the Orange Line to Harold, Washington, downtown in the Loop. It's about a 5-minute walk to the platform, but then once you're on the train, it's like 24 minutes. You got some pretty decent frequency. It's about 7 minutes between trains. So all told, it's about a 36-minute trip. And the fare is only $2.50. I mean, it's like practically free. So great option for getting from the airport to downtown Chicago. All right, number 4, which is actually a tie with Midway, is Mexico City. It's not super obvious to me. I haven't been to this airport, like how long the walk is. It depends which terminal you fly into, like how close the train station is, but I give it 5 minutes for a walk based on what I could glean from Google Earth. Measuring the trip time is a little tricky. It's hard to say there's actually one center to Mexico City, but I put it at the Pino Suarez station, which is a pretty healthy transfer point central to the city. It involves a transfer. You want to take the 4 to Pantitlan and then transfer to the 1 to Pino Suarez, which you think of transfer penalties, but the 4 runs every 4 minutes and the 1 runs every 2 minutes. You don't see subway frequencies like that too many places, certainly not in North America. The overall travel time is 27 minutes, and I just penalized the 4 minutes for the frequency on the least frequent line. So you come up with 36 minutes, but Mexico City wins the fare tiebreaker. The fare is 5 pesos, which is about 25 cents. Yes, really 25 cents to ride the subway in Mexico City with unlimited transfers. Vancouver International Airport in British Columbia. We're taking the SkyTrain Canada line from the airport to city center. Platform's super close to the terminal, so it's a 2-minute walk. It's a 25-minute ride into downtown. For a city the size of Vancouver, which isn't a huge city, frequency's great. Runs around 11 times an hour, so every 5.5 minutes or so. So you get a final score of 32.5 minutes. Just a quick aside, I did think about doing this whole thing by comparing the transit travel time to a taxi or like a car travel time, but I don't know, that just seemed to miss the point. But this is the one city where taking rail is actually probably faster than taking any kind of car, which is because there isn't really a good freeway connection from the airport to downtown, which is very abnormal for North America and very unique to Vancouver, which will maybe be the topic of a future video. The fare for the SkyTrain is $9 Canadian, so it's a little on the high side, but you should gladly pay it for how good the service is. It's about $7 and change in US dollars. Number 2 kind of surprised me. It's Atlanta, which I always think of as, but I think it's the US's busiest passenger airport. So I've flown through it a few times and it always seems like a bit of a cluster. And so when I actually looked at what the travel options were to get to downtown Atlanta, it was kind of a pleasant surprise. For this, you can take the MARTA Gold or Red from the airport to 5 Points. It's about a 4-minute walk to where you would have grabbed a taxi. But the transit travel time is fantastic. It's 17 minutes to downtown. The frequency is pretty good. It runs about 8 times an hour, so it's a 7-minute headway. So all told, you're under 30 minutes. It's about a 28-minute ordeal to get to downtown Atlanta from Hartsfield. And the fare is only $2.50. As always, before we get to number 1, I've got some honorable mentions, but very quickly, in all seriousness, this is a new channel, but I've got a list of like 100 videos I want to make about high-speed rail, congestion pricing, biking and walking, transit, things I've been working on and thinking about for a long time. A lot of years in the transportation planning and engineering field. And I'm excited about engaging with people on a lot of this stuff on just a different platform. So if you're interested in what the 10 best regional rail systems are, or the top 10 candidate cities for congestion pricing, or the top 10 dumbest college football stadiums, be sure to subscribe. So honorable mentions, I did want to mention Boston Logan just because there isn't really a good rail connection there. You have to take some sort of shuttle bus to get to a T stop, or you can take the Silver Line, which is sort of a BRT. So there are good transit connections, but it just didn't really fit the criteria for this list. I wanted to mention Seattle Link. It's a pretty good service for how far away from downtown Seattle the airport is. It's a 36-minute ride with 8-minute headway. Unfortunately, it's a little bit of a hike from the terminal. It's like a 6-minute walk. So when you total it up, it doesn't crack the top 10. The other one I wanted to mention was St. Louis Lambert. It's a pretty good service for a city of that size. It's the platform is like a 2-minute walk. It's a 34-minute train ride, but the frequency is only 4 times an hour. So again, just didn't quite make the list. And then I wanted to mention Miami International too. This one was just kind of hard to figure out because there's a people mover. They call it the Miami mover or something. And then there isn't like a direct train service from the Miami airport station to downtown. You have to transfer, but the frequencies are pretty good. So you could theoretically get a pretty efficient ride downtown, but It's a little illegible, and so I just kind of gave up on it and left it off the top 10. I'm gonna give Dallas DFW a dishonorable mention. It's got a DART station, but it's a 54-minute ride downtown, and it only runs 3 times an hour, so it's just not gonna cut it. And I guess the other dishonorable mention is like basically all of Southern California. You know, you got like 5 airports in LA, and you got San Diego, and not one of them has a useful rail connection. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. Okay, number 1, if you're like a serious transportation nerd, you've probably flown in and out of here in January on occasion. Let me know down in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. It's National Airport in DC. I mean, look at it. The metro platform is like a 2-minute walk from the concourse. The travel time to, and I chose Archives as the stop I wanted to go to. Your stop may actually be closer, but Archives is a 12-minute train ride, and it runs not great. It's like 5 times an hour, so 12-minute headways, but still, that's a final travel time of 26 minutes. And that's as good as it gets in North America. So that's it. Let me know, comment down below if you would have done this differently, or if there's an airport somewhere you think I missed. Drop a like on the video. Drop a dislike on the video if you feel that strongly about it. Subscribe if you're new. Turn on the bell notification. It all helps get more people here to join the conversation. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.